let me tell you about a single building tucked away in a quiet town in the Netherlands. If that one building disappeared tomorrow, poof, the production of every single advanced computer chip on Earth would just stop. Not slow down, stop. We're going to talk about the company inside that building, a silent empire that literally holds our entire digital world in its hands. Yeah, think about that for a second. The phone you're holding right now, the AI that's changing everything, the global financial markets, even the most advanced fighter jets, all of it, every last bit, is balanced on this one, single, terrifyingly fragile point of failure.
So what if one fire in one building could ground entire air forces, freeze the AI boom in its tracks, and send the global economy into a tailspin? I know, it sounds like a movie plot, right? But it's not. This is the real story of a technological choke point so narrow, so absolute, that our entire civilization has been built right on top of it, and most of us have no idea.
The company's name is ASML. You've probably never heard of them, but this Dutch company, well, they hold the keys to our entire technological future. So the big question is, how in the world did they manage to forge those keys?
So let's dive into this unlikely, silent empire. Their origin story is really not what you'd expect for the company that is now the absolute linchpin of the global economy.
I mean, the contrast is just staggering. Let's go back to 1984. ASML was basically an unwanted startup. You've got just 47 people working out of these leaky sheds literally next to a Philips factory, a tiny joint venture capitalized at just over $4 million. Now, fast forward to today, they're Europe's biggest tech company, with a market cap over 300 times billion euros. And they are the world's only supplier of a technology the world simply cannot live without. From a leaky shed to global dominance. It's an insane story.
And believe me, their path was a total knife's edge. They almost collapsed completely in 1988 when one of their partners just pulled out. But then, in 91, they had this one breakthrough product that basically saved them from extinction. They went public in 95, and by 2001, they had clawed their way to become the #1 supplier in their field. But what exactly did they build that was so unbelievably important?
Okay, so this is where things get wild. What does ASML actually build? Well, they build a machine that does the impossible. Seriously, it operates on a scale of physics that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie. Okay, try to picture this. Inside every single one of their machines, there's this controlled, violent storm happening. First, they fire 50,000 tiny droplets of molten tin every single second. Then, as each droplet is flying through the vacuum, it gets blasted by a massive, high-powered CO2 laser. Boom. This obliteration creates a tiny ball of plasma that flashes into existence for just a nanosecond, and that flash, that's the magic ingredient. It's a very specific, very powerful wavelength of light called extreme ultraviolet, or EUV. It's the key to making all modern chips. And to create that specific light, that plasma has to reach, get this, 220,000 degrees Celsius. Just let that number sink in for a moment. That is 40 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And they create this miniature sun, 50,000 times a second, all inside one machine. It's just mind-bending. So you've created this insane light, but now you have another problem. EUV light is so powerful, so energetic, that it gets absorbed by pretty much everything. It's absorbed by air, so the whole thing has to be in a perfect vacuum. You can't even focus it with a traditional lens. So what do? You have to bounce it off the most perfect mirrors ever created by human hands. Their supplier, the legendary optics company Zeiss, came up with this analogy that just says it all. If you scaled up one of these mirrors to be the size of all of Germany, the biggest bump on it would be less than a single millimeter high. We are talking about literal atomic-level perfection. And the machine all this goes into? It's an absolute monster. Each one weighs 180,000 kilograms. That's like a blue whale. It has over 100,000 individual components. It's so big you need 250 crates and multiple cargo planes just to ship it. And the price tag? Oh, just a cool $200 to $400 million for one machine. Okay, so you'd think a company that can build a miniature sun inside a box just won because they were the best engineers, right? Well, that's not the whole story. Not even close. ASML's dominance wasn't an accident. The truth is actually much stranger. It was a choice. A secret geopolitical strategy that was playing out in the shadows for decades.
Because you have to ask yourself this question. Back in the 80s and 90s, the kings of this technology were the Japanese giants Nikon and Canon. They were untouchable. So how on earth did this tiny, struggling company from the Netherlands not only compete with them, but completely and totally erase them from the high-end market?
Well, here's the hidden strategy, the part of the story most people don't know. Turns out, behind the scenes, the US government made a huge strategic decision. They decided they wanted a non-Japanese company to be the champion of this technology, one they could more easily control. So critical research, funded by US taxpayers and developed in US national labs, was quietly channeled to ASML. And at the same time, their Japanese rivals were denied access to key international projects and patents. The result? A deliberately engineered monopoly, built outside of Asia. It was a strategy to create a choke point, and man, did it work.
And that brings us to today. Because that monopoly, the one that was engineered in the shadows, has now been turned into the single most powerful weapon in a global tech war.
You see, when it comes to these cutting-edge EUV machines, the ones you need for all the advanced AI chips, military tech, the best smartphones, ASML doesn't just have a big piece of the pie. They have the entire pie. Let me just repeat that so it really sinks in. Not 99%, 100%. If you are Intel or Samsung or TSMC and you want to build a factory to make the most advanced chips in the world, there is only one company on the entire planet you can call. That's it.
And that absolute 100% monopoly, well, that's now the central weapon in this new tech Cold War between the United States and China. You have the US, whose goal is to stop China's technological rise, especially in the military, and you have China, whose goal is to become completely self-sufficient. And ASML? They're the weapon sitting right in the middle of it all.
So here's how that choke point is being used right now. Since 2019, the US has been putting immense pressure on the Dutch government. And it's worked. The Netherlands has blocked ASML from selling its best EUV machines to China. And those restrictions are getting tighter, even including some of their older but still very advanced DUV systems. This directly constrains China's ambitions in AI and military tech. But it's not just about China, you see. Every single advanced chipmaker in the world, TSMC in Taiwan, Samsung in South Korea, Intel right here in the US, is totally 100% dependent on ASML.
So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, you realize ASML's greatest creation wasn't just this incredible machine. They didn't just build a machine. They built the choke point for the future. And that leaves us with one last pretty unsettling question. In a world that is completely run by advanced technology, when one company, just one, holds all the keys to that future, who's really in control?